Hey guys, Hunter Joy here. Today I thought I'd show off the kind of current state of my Ww2 USMC impression as of March 2026. I made a video about a year ago showing off my kit. Back then, I think it was May of 2025 or something like that. And since then, my kit has updated substantially, as you can kind of tell just by the little bit I'm showing. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into it. So taking a look, first up here we have my basic rifleman kind of web setup here. So this is just my cartridge belt. This is not an original. This is a reproduction from Ww2 Impressions. Really great repro cartridge belt. I got this from a fellow reenactor on Facebook. When I got it, he kind of said that was pretty salty. That's why it's kind of faded and some of the eyelets are a little rusty. But apart from that, it's still in relatively great usable shape. I mean, it looks pretty good. As you can tell, it's pretty salty. As you can tell, the freaking marking is faded, but you can still see it. You know, Ww2 Impressions, USMC, 1942. So, still in usable shape. Taking a look at what I have on my belt, just have my canteens here. These are reproduction P2 canteen covers from World Price Glory. Really great reproductions. These are pretty salty just from using them and whatnot. I've had them for a while now, so a little salty. Inside of them though, I just have a reproduction canteen and cup sets from Price Glory. I cannot recommend these enough. They are just phenomenal reproductions. Not only are they fairly affordable, they're just way safer than drinking out of originals, and you know, they're just really a lifesaver, honestly. So highly recommend getting some of these. They're really great. But then taking a look here, we have my first aid pouches. So these are both original, just my original JFAC or Jungle First Aid Kit, dated 1945. I know the 45 ones aren't the most accurate since they look a little bit different than like the period 44 and 43 dated ones, but I mean, it works. I might switch it at some point. We'll see. Inside of it, I don't have any period content, sadly, but I do plan on getting them at some point. Here are my original M1924 first aid pouch. It's blancoed. Want to try and get that removed just because the unit I portray, or that my reenacting unit portrays, they didn't really blanco their gear, so I do want to try and remove that at some point. But inside here, I just have a painted Altoids tin. At some point, I'm going to get an actual first aid tin, but until then, it works. But that's kind of it for my web stuff. So, moving on from that, here we have my suspenders. These are original USMC 41 suspenders. These are mid-war ones, you can tell. They're curved buckle as opposed to flat buckle. But they work for the most part. They're in really good shape and everything. I don't use them a ton, mainly due to the fact I'm just not a big fan of the 41 suspenders. I think they're kind of shitty, but I mean, they're still good to have, but kind of does it for them. Then here have my reproduction M1 rifle bandoliers. These are reproductions from Service Supply. They're pretty good reproductions for the most part. When I made my last video, they were brand spanking new, so they're really green. But after using them at an event, they actually faded and just kind of weathered a decent amount, so now they look relatively good. So really happy with how they look. And then inside of them, they actually have the cardboard parts for your end block, which is really cool. But yeah, that's kind of it for that. So moving on, here we have some of my other covers and stuff. So here, just have two P30 canteen covers. These are reproductions from World Price Glory. Really great reproductions. This one I just have, blank, if you will, except for my name stenciled on the back. But then this one, I have units marked. So the reenacting unit I'm a part of, we portray Baker Company, 1st Battalion, 24th Marine Regiment of the 4th Marine Division. And this was their units marking, 413. So I just had that units marked for that, as well as have my name stenciled on the back there. But yeah, that's kind of it for those. And here I have my M43 shovels. This is not my main shovel that I use. This is just what I have for later war. But I have two covers. This one is a kind of a neat cover. So I got this from Mandalorian on eBay, and it looks identical to like a period World War II sewn back early war M43 shovel cover, like identical. But the weird part is the date on it, if you can see that, is 1948. So I don't know if they made like repros back then for maybe films or something, or if they maybe just made like a company or whatever made some with the sewn bag in 1948. I really don't know. So if anybody does, just let me know in the comments, because I'm really curious on what the story is behind that, because I mean it looks identical to the World War II ones. But as for the shovel is an original 44 dated. Then here I have an original 45 dated second pattern 43 cover that I Unismarked 413 for B124. I know some people might be cringing that I, Unismarked a original cover. I really don't care. These aren't rare or anything. It's just this original second pattern 45 dated cover. It's not like it's rare. So yeah, but that's it for that. And here we have my 10-inch late war M1 rifle bayonet. So this bayonet, when I made the last video, I had a full-blown repro bayonet. It looked really farby and stuff. Since then, though, I've gotten an original bayonet. Well, at least the bayonet anyway. This is an original European clone of the M1 rifle bayonet. It looks almost identical to the US ones. The only difference is the marking. But apart from that, it looks identical. As for the scabbard, this is a repro scabbard that I heavily defarbed. I repainted it entirely, and it looks really great now. So, really happy with how it turned out. It looks really solid. But that does it for the bayonet. Then here, for one of my pack setups, or one of my packs, we have my War Price Glory Early War M41 pack. This is a really great pack. I haven't used it a ton, I'll admit, but it's still a great pack. I really love it. I've had it for, gosh, like 3 years now, so quite a while. I have my name stenciled on the back there, as well as the front flap. But yeah, it's a really great pack. Highly recommend them. They're really great. And moving on to kind of my final and main pack setup. Here we have my original second pattern M41 pack. This is an original WIP 44 dated second pattern M41 pack. It's in decent shape. The only issue I have with it, which it's not really its fault, I mean it's original, is that this top part here is torn, if you can see, and this bayonet flap here, that eyelet's kind of fucked up, which is a bummer. But apart from those two things, it's still in fairly good shape and usable shape. As for what I have on my pack, I just have my T-handle shovel. This is a reproduction I got from a Facebook group like a year or two ago. A really great repro shovel though. I don't know where the shovel is exactly from, but I do know the cover is World War II Impressions, which is nice. And here I have my original 43 dated camouflage poncho, just on the green side, just rolled down here. Then for these straps, these are original, USMC utility straps or whatever, which is nice to have. And lastly, I have my reproduction M1905 bayonet that I defarbed heavily. I completely repainted the entire thing. It looks really good, which I'm really happy with how it turned out. But yeah, that kind of does it for my pack setup. So let's move on to the final portion of this part, which is my rifle. So taking a look at my rifle here, this is my Denix M1 Garand replica that I somewhat defarbed. What I mean by defarbed is I sanded down the stock and I stained it a more correct color. It looks good. I would like to defarb it way more. I did order a lock bar set from World War II gear. I'm just waiting for it to get here. It's coming from France, so it takes a while. But I would like to, cover these screws and, maybe add an actual back plate that opens and all that stuff. But that probably won't be for a while, if I'm being honest. But it would be nice to get to at some point. As for my sling, this is just a reproduction sling that I've had for years. It's still really new, even though I've used it at a handful of events. Well, by handful, I mean like 2. But it's still a nice sling. I would like to dub it just so that way it's not this nasty orange color, but I'll get around to that at some point. But that kind of does it for the gear portion. So now let's move on to my uniform and headgear portion. Alright, so moving on to my uniform items here. Here I have my P41 uniform. This is a reproduction P41 uniform from at the front. Really great reproductions. I've had these for, gosh, like 2 years now. They're not super salty, but they're, you know, they have some stains and whatnot, but they're really good, as you can see. Then for my trousers, I just have a reproduction trouser belt from Price Glory. I swapped out the buckle though with an original one, just because the buckle that came with mine was kind of fucked. So I just swapped it out with an original, and now it works great. But that's it for my 41 uniform. Then here I have some warmer weather items, if you will. So kind of some history, if you will. For the most part, the Pacific Theater was hot, obviously. However, there were 2 key battles that it was not. And those 2 key battles were the Battle of Iwo Jima and Okinawa. Both those battles got really cold. In fact, Iwo Jima especially got, usually from memoirs, Marines said that it never got above about 40 to 45 degrees. So it was always really cold, especially for the Pacific. So Marines were issued these 2 main pieces of gear. You had your USMC wool service shirt. This is a reproduction from Wool Price Glory. It's a really great repro. I mean, made really good and everything. Looks pretty solid for the most part. Really comfortable too. But then they also issued the M41 jacket. This one in particular is a reproduction. I believe it's an older one from at the front. I got this from a fellow reenactor. It's really salty, but it works for what I use it for. But yeah, that's kind of does it for the main uniform portions, if you will. So moving on from that, here we have my footwear. So these are reproduction boondockers from World War II impressions. I got these from 2 awesome dudes in my reenacting group as a gift. So shout out to Ben and John. Thank you. These were, you know, awesome. I mean, I love these things. They're phenomenal boots. So really thank them. But that's it for my footwear. Then here, for one of my pieces of headgear, we have my M1 pot helmet. This is an original front seam fixed bail McCord shell with reproduction chin straps from at the front. I know at the front isn't the greatest for chin straps, but I've had these for so long that they just, you know, they work. They're really salty, as you can tell, just from using them. But yeah. Then for my liner, this is a refurbished liner from J. Murray. Kind of salty, not super, but I've used it at 2 events so far, so it's been serving me well. And lastly, my helmet cover. Got this from my buddy Kev back in 2023. Kind of salty, not really. Haven't used the green side much, mainly used the tan side. So the tan side's a little bit more dirtier than the green, but still really cool. But that's it for my helmet. So moving on. Here we have my dog tags. These are reproductions from mydogtag.com. They're not bad. At some point, I would like to get some repros from Dog Tags NE. They make really good dog tags from what I've heard. But, I mean, these work. They're not bad. And here are my Army HBT cap. You know, had this for like a year now. Really great repro. I got this from my first event at a vendor, so I really don't know who made it, but it's pretty solid reproduction. Then moving on to kind of the 2 final things, we have my fighting knives. So this K-bar I know looks really farb, and it is at the moment. So this K-bar is one of the repros made by Case. These are the only accurate reproductions on the market for World War II reenacting, but you have to defarb them. And what I mean by that is you have to treat the handle. You can use anything from fucking Huber's shoe grease to mink oil. I just haven't done that yet, but you have to darken that and then swap out the sheath with a reproduction one from like War Price Glory or something. I haven't done this yet. I plan on doing it very soon, so that's why it looks hella farb. But, I mean, once they're defarbed, they look really great. So, yeah. But if you want a repro K-bar to use for working reacting, get a case. They're the only accurate reproductions. All the other ones are farb, including the PX style ones. So, yeah. Then lastly, for my fighting knives, I have my PAL 36 knife. This is a original PAL. This sheath is a reproduction made by a guy named Adam Miner on Facebook. He makes phenomenal reproduction sheaths. I believe he makes K-bar sheaths as well, which is really cool. But I got a PAL just because I wanted one, and it looks phenomenal. I have my name marked there too. But yeah, so that kind of does it for the kit for March of this year. There's still a lot I need to get. Obviously, it's not close to being finished by any means, but I'm pretty happy with how it is. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time. Bye.